Welcome to the Love Story with Lisa channel. Today, we're bringing you a brand new story. Along the road, I lifted the curtain to admire the scenery. I noticed Adrian Wang riding beside the carriage on horseback, guarding us closely. Your uncle looks so impressive. Seeing him dressed in a short riding jacket and tall boots, with a fine sword strapped to his back, I couldn't help but laugh and praise him. Unexpectedly, he shot me an arrogant glance. Who are you calling uncle? I'm only 17. I leaned against the carriage window and deliberately pouted. I didn't want to call you that either. But look, there are two little radishes growing on your back. And besides, who asked your age anyway? That still doesn't mean you can call me whatever you want. The long journey was dull, so he seemed happy enough to bicker with me. Then what should I call you from now on? He thought for a moment. Call me whatever you like. Immediately, I waved at him and flashed a wide grin. Well then. Whatever you like. The two little ones in the carriage are hungry. We've been traveling for half a day. Let's find a place to eat something. Humph. In a wilderness like this, whose hen is clucking? He turned around, and there was Annie Du, clutching her stomach and laughing. Liu Chen was also trying to suppress his laughter, his face turning red. Ah! It's not a hen. It's two little chicks teasing me. There was an official road leading from Yenzhou to Taishan. But the road was difficult. Mountains stretched along the entire route, and there were very few proper inns. So most of the time, the caravan rested in the forests. They lit fires, set up pots, boiled water, and reheated food. While wandering nearby, I noticed fresh wild vegetables growing in the forest. I quickly gathered a handful and prepared a simple cold vegetable dish. I spread out an oilcloth mat, took out bowls and chopsticks, and laid out the food. The four of us sat together and ate. The others formed groups of 3 or 5 and ate elsewhere. Sesame cakes with wild vegetable salad, along with a bowl of hot soup made from dried meat. The warmth spread through our bodies instantly. Although it was summer, the farther north we traveled, the cooler the weather became, especially in the forests. When the mountain wind blew through the trees, it even felt slightly cold. Warm clothes, fresh herbs, hot soup. The aftertaste lingered pleasantly. After eating and drinking our fill, Adrian Wang lay back on the grass, looking up at the blue sky and drifting white clouds. He sighed contentedly. I laughed. Are you satisfied now? Here, take this. I pulled a small willow twig from my pouch and proudly handed it to him. He stared at it in astonishment, then he accepted it with great admiration. You even brought toothpicks with you? No wonder the carriage is packed with luggage. Are you traveling? Or moving house? What nonsense. Look at Annie's teeth. They're full of gaps. If she eats dried meat, it gets stuck. If she doesn't chew willow twigs, what will she use? Annie giggled and took a willow twig, happily chewing on it. Big sister Chloe is so nice. Can you take care of Annie forever? Don't get married in the future, okay? Leo, acting in his role as the elder brother, hearing that, Liu Chen became annoyed. If big sister doesn't get married in the future, then who will take care of her? Annie Du refused to give in. I will take care of big sister. Leo snorted. You only know how to eat and play, and you're always causing trouble. How could you possibly take care of anyone? Annie's face instantly fell. Then what should we do? I don't want big sister to leave me. Standing nearby, Adrian Wang watched the two adorable children with a smile so wide his willow-shaped eyebrows curved gently. He reached out and pinched Annie's chubby cheek affectionately. If Annie doesn't want Big Sister to go far away, then let Big Sister marry someone nearby. Annie's eyes lit up immediately. That's right. Big Sister can marry my cousin. The moment those words came out, Adrian Wang's face turned dark. Meanwhile, I burst into laughter. If this continued without food to distract them, the two children might really start arguing loudly. So I stood up and took Annie deeper into the forest. Adrian Wang hurriedly got up as well. Where are you going? Without turning back, I replied, to take care of something. There are often wild animals in the forest. I'll go with you. I turned around irritably and said helplessly, a young lady going to relieve herself, and you, a grown man, want to follow along? Don't you feel any shame at all? And you still claim to be a noble young master. Even so, he refused to retreat. In the end, he only stood some distance away to keep watch, just standing there guarding. Heavens! Chloe Chen, who could be considered a tough mountain village girl, yet here I was feeling embarrassed like this, squatting down behind the bushes. I tried my best not to make any sound. But how could something like that possibly be controlled? Well, so much for maintaining the image of a refined young lady. Not that I had much of one to begin with, my face burning red with embarrassment. I emerged from the bushes, grabbed Annie's hand, and walked straight past Adrian Wang, completely ignoring him, because there were women and children traveling with the caravan. Our progress was slow. Ordinarily, the journey to Taishan would take only 6 or 7 days. But this time, after 4 days, we had traveled less than 300 li. On the 5th day, the caravan increased its pace. We hurried along the road from morning until evening, and by the time the lanterns were being lit, we finally arrived in Yunzhou. We found a clean inn and stayed the night. Annie and I shared a room. Adrian Wang and Leo stayed in another. After sitting in the carriage all day, my body ached terribly, so that night, we all went to sleep very early. But unexpectedly, in the middle of the night, while we were sleeping soundly, the ground suddenly began to shake violently. It felt as if 10,000 monstrous beasts had risen from the depths of hell all at once. Earthquake! I shouted in panic. Beside me, Annie was still confused, not understanding what was happening. Just as we rushed toward the door, someone burst inside. The door flew open. One hand grabbed Annie. The other arm wrapped around my waist. Amid thunderous roaring and clouds of choking dust, he carried us out of the collapsing house. Then he threw us to the ground and shielded us with his body. Behind us, with a terrifying crash, the entire building collapsed. When we turned back to look, nothing remained but broken debris and thick smoke rising into the dark night. On the distant horizon, an eerie purple-red glow flickered across the sky. The embrace of Adrian Wang was warm. But at that moment, my hair was a mess, my face covered in dirt, and my limbs were ice cold, as if I had fallen straight into the depths of hell. It was a natural disaster. In July of the first year of the Wanhui era, a massive earthquake struck Yunzhou. 5,000 people died, tens of thousands were injured. Within a radius of 50 li, houses collapsed entirely. The people were scattered everywhere, homeless and desperate. Fortunately, someone had been guarding the caravan's wagons and goods outside. Our losses were minimal, only 3 people were injured. But when a natural disaster strikes, the road ahead inevitably becomes more difficult. After a brief rest, Adrian Wang decided that we would depart immediately, even in the middle of the night. He feared that once the starving citizens realized there were merchant caravans passing through, they might attack to seize food. Natural disasters are often followed by disease. My grandmother always said that places crowded with the dead gather resentment, I reminded him nervously. Such resentment can turn into vengeful spirits that harm the living. Adrian Wang nodded seriously. He immediately ordered the caravan to leave Yunzhou, the city that had now become a wasteland. Yunzhou lay between Yenzhou and Tasshan. We still had more than 200 li left to travel. Along the road ahead, we saw nothing but cracked earth, collapsed houses, piles of corpses, and burial flags fluttering in the wind. Because the official road had been destroyed, we were forced to take a long detour. Along the way, starving refugees repeatedly tried to block our wagons and seize our food, but thanks to Adrian Wang and the 4 escorts guarding us carefully, the caravan narrowly escaped danger again and again. The first half of the journey to Tasshan had been sightseeing among mountains and rivers. The second half had become a desperate escape from the jaws of danger. It was truly a journey filled with dangers beyond words. The constant threats kept everyone on edge. Even Annie, who usually loved to pout and complain, had lost her appetite. Adrian Wang seemed deeply regretful. With a heavy heart, he said, "If I had known it would be like this, I would never have brought you and the children along." I smiled and tried to comfort him. My grandmother always says that reading 10,000 books is not as good as traveling 10,000 miles. Leo spends all his time reading books. That isn't good either. He needs to see the world. Don't you believe it? After these days, he must have learned something about the hardships of life. He's no longer just a child. Even so, you've suffered because of this. He looked full of guilt. Suffered? We have warm clothes, full meals, and a carriage to ride in. What suffering is that? Besides, you're here protecting us. Do you really mean that? My words were like a mountain breeze, scattering the clouds of gloom in his eyes. Within them, a flame suddenly ignited, burning across the fields of my heart like a blazing sunset. My face flushed red as I nodded. With you here, I feel very safe. Chloe. Adrian Wang called my name, his voice filled with emotions that seemed to have been suppressed for far too long. I quickly cut him off. Don't say anything more. Next spring will be my coming-of-age ceremony. After that, my marriage can be discussed. I was not a block of wood. Living together for several months, how could I fail to notice the feelings he had for me? But matters like this had to be approved by my parents. Even though I was only a village girl, such things could not be handled carelessly. Everything had to follow proper customs and propriety. After a hurried journey that felt as though it had torn our bodies into pieces, we finally arrived at Tasshan on the 7th day. The Black Marsh Forest area of Tasshan was where the exiled families lived. The family of Duke Harrison Du was also living there. During the day, they chopped firewood. At night, they slept in rough wooden huts. Only after arriving in Tasshan did I realize how many members the Duke's household actually had. The Duke had 2 younger brothers, 4 nephews, 1 son, 6 grandsons, and 6 or 7 female relatives. Altogether, more than 20 people. After 4 or 5 years of separation, I finally met the woman I had always regarded as a fairy-like noble lady, Lady Sophia Du. Now she wore coarse cloth clothes and straw sandals. Her face was darkened by the sun, and her hands had grown rough and calloused. All the elegance and noble grace she once possessed seemed to have vanished. Yet kindness itself creates beauty. She still carried a special charm that naturally drew people close. When family members reunite after such a long separation, tears naturally fall like rain. There were embraces, sobbing, and cries everywhere, especially when Lady Sophia suddenly saw her 2 children again. She nearly fainted from the overwhelming emotion. "Adrian, my nephew. You have troubled yourself too much for us." Duke Harrison Du was a tall, powerful man. He slapped Adrian Wang heavily on the shoulder, his eyes moist with gratitude. Adrian Wang was also deeply moved. "Uncle, your words are too serious. Now that Prince Julian has been pardoned, the restoration of the Duke's residence cannot be far away. What matters most now is that you take good care of your health." The Duke shook his head. "The will of heaven is difficult to predict. We will speak of those matters later. In the past, the Duke's household always helped the poor and rescued those in distress. After enduring this calamity, surely we will receive blessings in the future. That is the only way not to betray heaven's justice." Then he laughed heartily. "You little rascal, who taught you to speak so sweetly?" Adrian Wang pointed toward me. At that moment, I was busy unloading luggage from the carriage. He smiled. "I learned it from her." "Are you Chloe?" Before coming to Taschen, Adrian had already told the Duke in detail about how my family had saved Madame Margaret Dew and her 2 grandchildren. I did not expect him to remember so clearly. Even though he had never met me before, he recognized me at first glance. I hurried forward and bowed respectfully. "Greetings, Lord Dew. Madame Margaret often mentions you and thinks of you day and night." "Good, good. She is well, isn't she?" "Yes, very well. Her voice when scolding people is even louder than when she lived in the Duke's residence." "That's good. That's very good." When the Duke heard mention of his wife in Yenzhou, his voice suddenly choked with emotion, but he quickly regained his composure. Taking a deep breath, he smiled at me. "Your entire family are our benefactors. You are a good child. Chloe. How about this? Would you like to become my adopted granddaughter?" Adrian Wang hurried forward and bowed. "Uncle. That may not be appropriate. Perhaps we should discuss it again after returning to the capital." The Duke froze for a moment, then he immediately understood and burst into loud laughter. "Ah. Of course. I was too hasty. This cunning young fellow must be afraid of confusing the family hierarchy." After the laughter and tears finally subsided, Lady Sophia Dew held my hands tightly. "Chloe." Before she could finish speaking, tears were already streaming down her face. Her voice trembled with emotion. How could I not understand her feelings? I gently held her hands and replied, "My lady, please do not say the word, thanks. Have you forgotten that the Duke's household once showed kindness to my family first?" Lady Sophia wiped away her tears. "It was nothing. Only a few small things. It hardly counts. You are mistaken. I spoke seriously. If not for those small things you sent us that year, my family might have starved to death. My mother and my younger brother might not even have survived until today. Speaking honestly, that year my grandmother brought me to the Duke's residence just to beg for help. Who could have imagined that it would create such a deep bond between our families?" My words made Lady Sophia laugh through her tears. She gently tapped my nose. "You child. Such a kind heart. I wonder which lucky man will marry you in the future. Whoever he is. He must have accumulated blessings for 3 lifetimes." Although the Duke's family had money to redeem themselves, the people exiled to Taschen still had to perform heavy labor. Fortunately, no one bullied them. This time, we had brought many books, brushes, ink, and paper. There were several young boys here. Even though they had fallen into hardship, if the Duke's household were restored one day, they would still need education so they would not grow up illiterate. The Duke sighed again. Then he urged us to return to Yenzhou soon. "Everything here is fine. In the future, you should not come too often. If others notice, it may stir unnecessary jealousy and bring trouble." Adrian Wang nodded. Uncle is right. We will return tomorrow. However, this junior would like to say one thing. This year Yunzhou has suffered a natural disaster. I fear that next spring an epidemic may break out. You and the clan members should prepare precautions in advance. The Duke's expression immediately changed. I understand. After staying in Taishan for 3 days, we began our journey back. The imperial court reacted quickly. When we passed through Yunzhou again, we saw countless people working under the direction of the officials, relieving disaster victims and rebuilding the ruined city. Oh. It turned out that the emperor was still a good ruler after all. When we returned to Peachwater Village, my mother rushed forward and wrapped me tightly in her arms, crying so hard she could barely make a sound. Madame Margaret Du gathered Liu Chen and Annie Du into her embrace. Sitting on the warm brick bed, she wiped her tears again and again. We heard that Yunzhou suffered an earthquake. The whole family was terrified. Your father was even planning to hire a carriage to send people out to search for you. Thank heavens. Thank heavens you all came back safely. If anything had happened to you, how could this family possibly go on living? Since my grandmother couldn't compete with the others for someone to hug. She turned and clung to Adrian Wang instead, bombarding him with questions. Were you hurt by falling debris? Were you frightened? Did you run into any bad people on the road? How badly are the people suffering over at Taishan? Adrian Wang patiently recounted every detail of what had happened along the journey. When he finished, he bowed respectfully to my grandmother. Grandmother, it was my fault for causing you such worry. My grandmother froze in shock. She nearly dropped the bowl of dandelion tea she had just brought him. What did you call me? Hadn't he always addressed her as Madame Li before? Yet Adrian Wang maintained a calm expression, not the slightest change in his face. Grandmother. My grandmother seemed to sense that something was a little strange, but before she could question him further, Adrian Wang quickly excused himself and left. Soon the entire household returned to its busy routine, because after the summer harvest came the autumn harvest, and after harvesting came the autumn planting. For farmers, 3 seasons of the year were spent with their faces buried in the soil. The labor was exhausting enough to drain every last bit of strength from the body. By October, we finally had a little time to rest. But people's hearts were restless and uneasy. Adrian Wang had heard traveling merchants say that in the distant lands of southern frontier, a terrible epidemic was spreading. The disease passed from person to person, extremely frightening. The southern frontier is so far away. It couldn't possibly reach Peachwater Village, my grandmother said dismissively. She hated drinking the bitter medicine that Lily Chen brewed. Every time, she tried to secretly pour it away when no one was watching. But Lily was stubborn and fierce. If grandmother refused to drink, Lily would stand guard right at the doorway and refuse to let her go to the latrine. After all, people have 3 basic bodily needs. And my grandmother was already elderly. Naturally, her needs were even more frequent, delay for even a short while, and she might have to change her clothes. Lily was not called the little tyrant of Peachwater Village for nothing. Left with no choice, my grandmother could only close her eyes and swallow the medicine 3 times a day. Oh, that's right, Lily said proudly. This prescription is a secret formula from Dr. Tian's family, specially used to treat epidemics. I even took a lot of silver from my elder sister to buy these herbs. My grandmother had just come back from the latrine. Hearing this, she became even angrier. What? How much silver did you spend? Chuangxinlian, astragalus, ginseng, pinelia, roasted licorice, ginger, and red dates. Dr. Tian said that life is more important than silver. People whose liver and spleen are unbalanced are especially vulnerable. This money is worth spending. My grandmother's face instantly turned pale. It felt as if blood were about to spurt out of her chest. She grabbed a burning firewood stick from the stove. I'm going to beat this wasteful girl to death. Lily shrieked in terror and ran for her life. Fortunately, the stick never actually struck her. But when winter arrived, the epidemic truly spread from the southern frontier to the north. And then, someone in Peachwater Village died. The first victim was old beggar Joe. He was a beggar who wandered through the village every day, going down every alley. At noon he would visit each household, knocking on his bowl and asking for food. He had a very good temperament. If people gave him food, he accepted it happily. If they refused, he never grew angry. He would simply bow politely and leave. Because of that, no one in Peachwater Village disliked him. But one day, people suddenly realized that old beggar Joe had not been seen for several days. A kind villager went to the abandoned temple where he usually stayed. There, they found his body, already cold. Soon officials from the town arrived, covering their mouths and noses with cloth. They spoke anxiously with village chiefly. Immediately afterward, the village chief's legs went weak with fear. Go home. Everyone go home immediately. Lock yourselves inside. This is a plague. But even if you locked yourself inside, you still had to breathe. Disease is an invisible ghost. By the time you realize it exists, it has already been there for a long time. After the first victim came the second, then the third, the fourth, the fifth. Finally, even the strange-tempered old Master Mo could no longer endure it. Covering his mouth and nose, he slowly felt his way from house to house, visiting the sick to perform acupuncture. Each time he entered a home, he asked the same question: if my needles kill someone, are you afraid? At a time like this, people would try anything, treating a dying horse as if it were still alive. Of course, no one was afraid. Not only were they not afraid, they urged him to start immediately. Old Master Mo felt for the acupuncture points and inserted his needles carefully. While working, he said, under the big locust tree, Lily Chen is boiling medicine. Go and get some. It's free. But remember, this was paid for with silver from the Chen family. You should be grateful. The wonton shop in town earned a little money, but Adrian Wang isn't home, so Chloe took the silver out and spent it. Money can be earned again. But once life is lost, it can never return. I believe Adrian Wang would think the same way. After acupuncture and herbal medicine, the patients gradually began to recover, but the plague was terrifying. Old Master Mo alone did not have enough strength to treat everyone. More and more villagers in Peachwater Village developed fevers, so my grandmother and Madame Margaret Du took responsibility for boiling the medicine. Meanwhile, Lily also began performing acupuncture on patients. The first person Lily successfully cured was the second son of Widow Zhang. Just as she had said, soon the villagers of Peachwater Village were all hoping to receive her acupuncture treatment. In November, Adrian Wang had gone to Suizhou. Until now, there had been no news from him. I was extremely worried. Now that the plague had frightened everyone, rumors were spreading everywhere. People said that even someone inside the Imperial Palace had developed a fever. Adrian Wang was alone out there, and he was a noble young master who barely knew how to do manual work. He didn't even know how to take care of himself properly. What was I supposed to do? Oh. The bitter winter had arrived, and with it, the unease in my heart only grew stronger. A fear I had never known before crept quietly into my chest, like a damp water snake, cold and slippery, coiling tightly around me. Every day, I was haunted by nightmares. No, it wasn't me. It was her who was trapped in those nightmares. in the 12th lunar month, Grandma Lee fell ill. Her fever burned fiercely and would not break. Soon she slipped into unconsciousness, fortunately, because our whole family had already taken the minor bupleurum decoction medicine earlier. None of us were infected. Leo Chen only had a mild fever for 2 nights before he was running and playing again. But Grandma Lee, even after acupuncture and medicine, she remained delirious, mumbling nonsense like someone who had lost her mind. Sometimes she would shut her eyes and cry loudly, "Old man, I have wronged you. Our eldest son died so miserably. Our daughter was bullied by others. When I become a wandering ghost, I won't even dare face you." Then suddenly she would open her eyes, grinding her teeth as she spoke. The Duke's household was confiscated. Yet they once showed us kindness. Even if we had to sell our broken house, we should still save them. Beside her bed, Madame Margaret Dew wept like rain. Clutching her hand tightly, "Lydia Lee, if anything happens to you, I won't be able to live either." Lily Chen cried as she ran to summon help. "Old Master Mo. Dr. Tian. Please come quickly." For a long time, I could say nothing. My throat felt choked with grief. But old Master Mo simply waved his hand. "Saving lives is what matters. No need for so many words." In less than a week, Grandma Lee's body was covered in acupuncture needles like a hedgehog, on the crown of her head, between her brows, her arms, her legs, even the soles of her feet. Every time old Master Mo inserted a needle, our entire family trembled. Watching someone you love suffer like that, it was a feeling that could only be understood by those who had witnessed it themselves. Thankfully, heaven showed mercy. Late one night, Grandma Lee suddenly broke out in a heavy sweat. Her entire body was drenched. Then at last she weakly whispered one word, "Hungry." I touched her forehead, and finally let out a long breath of relief. The fever had broken. This unprecedented plague lasted from the middle of winter until early spring. It was said that more than 100,000 people had died. Even Prince Julian himself had fallen ill. Though he recovered under the care of imperial physicians, his health was no longer as strong as before. People whispered that the sky above the capital might soon change again. On New Year's Eve, a letter from Adrian Wang finally arrived. Late, in the letter, he said his journey had been delayed, but by March, when I held my coming-of-age ceremony, he would definitely return in time. So I counted the days on my fingers. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. But even when the wildflowers began blooming all across the mountains, and my coming-of-age ceremony drew near, he still had not returned. The Green Bamboo Academy had long been closed because of the epidemic. The wonton shop in town had also been shut for many days. At last, I could no longer endure the waiting, so I went to Qingfeng Inn to look for him. A waiter, his mouth and nose covered with cloth, pushed open a door and spoke to me anxiously. "Young Master Wang only returned yesterday. But it seems he has caught the plague. He's burning with a high fever." So that was it. For months, a sharp sword had been hanging above my neck, and now, at this very moment, it had finally fallen. Step by step, slowly, I walked toward the bed. There he lay, quiet, still, his elegant brows, his face carved like jade. This was the young master I had fallen for from the very first moment I met him. They say that when people love beauty, they naturally fall in love with youth. A handsome and noble young gentleman like him. How could a village girl like me not be moved? If my heart had not been stirred long ago, then why, before even knowing his true identity, did I make him a fox fur hat with my own hands? Love has no beginning. From the moment we first met, I had already wanted to use my rough, calloused hands to warm him through the cold nights, to endure wind and frost together. And if heaven were kind enough, I wanted to sew his clothes, cook his meals, bear his children, to do every ordinary thing that husbands and wives in this world share together, so he could not lie here like this. Cold, lonely, silent. Chloe Chen would bring Adrian Wang safely home, clean, whole, alive, back to Peachwater Village. Perhaps it was fate. I had brought my jewelry box with me. I pawned it through the waiter so I could invite the best physician in town. The doctor checked Adrian Wang's pulse. Then he frowned deeply. This young master. Was he injured before? Otherwise, why would his illness be so severe? My heart clenched painfully. Please examine him more carefully. The doctor nodded and reached out to remove Adrian Wang's robe. At once, dark red scars appeared across his body. I gasped in shock. These whip marks. The doctor muttered, they must be 3 or 4 years old. 3 or 4 years ago? 3 or 4 years ago. Who could have caused those injuries, aside from the Wang family of Qingzhou, who had expelled him from their household? Who else could it have been? My young master, clad in a thin spring robe, riding his horse with effortless grace across a bridge. Such a proud, noble man. How many lonely nights had he endured, licking his wounds in silence like a wounded beast? I lifted my head, forcing the tears back into my eyes, forcing a smile onto my lips. Then I pleaded with the physician, please write a prescription for him. Oh dear, don't cry, the old doctor said kindly. I'll write the medicine right away. My granddaughter is about the same age as you. I can't bear seeing a young girl cry like this. But the moment he said that, my tears burst out even harder. The doctor was startled. I said, don't cry. Why are you crying even louder now? After he finished writing the prescription, I asked the waiter to fetch the medicine. Before leaving, the doctor asked, is he your elder brother, young lady? Without thinking, I blurted out, he's my fiancé. The doctor stroked his beard and smiled. Well then, that makes things easier. Tonight you must be careful. Don't let his fever rise again. If he gets through this night safely, a few days of medicine and 1 or 2 months of rest should be enough. I thanked the doctor again and again as I escorted him out of the inn. After walking only a few steps away, he was still speaking behind me. Young lady, your eye for choosing a husband is quite good indeed. My child. That night, I never had the slightest intention of sleeping. Almost immediately after the doctor left, Adrian Wang's fever returned. I removed his outer robe and wiped his body with a warm cloth again and again, over and over. I fed him small sips of water, but his complexion grew paler with every passing moment, even after taking the medicine. He still didn't sweat. When the faint light of dawn finally appeared on the horizon, my eyes had already turned bloodshot. Sweat soaked the braids of my hair. I touched his burning forehead, and suddenly, I broke down. I collapsed onto his bare chest, crying uncontrollably as I pounded and shook him. Adrian Wang, open your eyes right now. I already told the doctor I'm your fiancé. If something happens to you, I'll become a widow. What am I supposed to do then? You worthless pampered young master. You can't even keep your word. Tomorrow is my coming-of-age ceremony. If I hadn't come to find you, were you planning not to give me a gift for it? You jerk. You seduced me and now you're planning to abandon me? I'm telling you right now, in this lifetime, you're not escaping. And not just this lifetime. In the next life, you'll have to be my ox or my horse to repay this debt. Outside the window, a crescent moon hung quietly in the sky. A few drifting clouds passed slowly by. Inside the room, I sat there with disheveled hair, crying loudly like a ghost howling in the night. Then suddenly, a hand slowly reached up and stroked my head. Startled, I lifted my tear and snot-covered face, and met a pair of warm eyes filled with laughter. "You're coming of age now," he said softly. "That means you can finally get married. I am Adrian Wang. I have admired you for a long time. I hope you might take pity on me and allow me the honor of reaching above my station. If I am fortunate enough in this lifetime to marry you as my wife, I will willingly be your ox or your horse. Gladly." Under the flickering candlelight, his lips were dry and cracked, even bleeding slightly. His voice was hoarse and low, yet slowly, he spoke the most sincere vow of his life. In the end, my coming-of-age ceremony was never held. Adrian Wang was still sick, and my whole family was busy. Not only did we have the spring planting to manage, we also had to keep brewing medicine and performing acupuncture for neighbors and villagers. Compared to matters of life and death, a coming-of-age ceremony was truly a trivial thing. By April, Adrian Wang had fully recovered. Then he arrived at Peachwater Village with an impressive procession of betrothal gifts. The moment he stepped into our home, he dropped to his knees with a loud thud in front of my grandmother and my parents. "Esteemed elders," he said respectfully, "this junior has long admired Chloe Chen. I sincerely wish to marry her as my wife. Today I have come especially to ask for her hand in marriage." "What?" Grandma Lee nearly jumped straight off the bed. My parents stared with their mouths wide open. Only Madame Margaret Du pressed her lips together, secretly smiling as if she had already expected this. Adrian Wang knelt upright, his voice steady as a mountain. "I came today to formally ask for Chloe's hand. I hope all of you will grant your approval." Grandma Lee stood frozen. She couldn't believe her ears. Even her voice sounded strange when she spoke. "You're a young master from a noble family, and you want to marry Chloe?" "Yes," Adrian replied firmly. "In this life, I will marry no one but Chloe." Grandma Lee shook her head repeatedly. "She can't read." Adrian quickly answered, "I can't farm. She's just a country girl. I'm a man with no family backing. Our family has no power or influence. I've long been without parents." Even Grandma Lee began to look puzzled. The more they argued back and forth, the more it sounded as though they were truly a perfect match. "Well, this matter could be possible," Grandma Lee finally said. "It just happened too suddenly. There isn't even a matchmaker yet." She rubbed her hands together, still hesitating. At that moment, Madame Margaret, who had been secretly smiling the entire time, stood up. Her face was bright with joy. She looked at Grandma Lee and laughed. "Isn't the matchmaker already right here? Madame Lee, what do you think? Would I do?" Grandma Lee blinked in surprise. "Yes. Yes, that works." The marriage developed so quickly and smoothly that even I was stunned. I had thought my grandmother and parents would worry about the matter of social status. But then I realized something. After surviving the confiscation of property, after enduring the plague, after struggling so hard just to stay alive, everyone had already seen through the illusions of the world. How could something like social status compare to true feelings? What I didn't expect was that after just a few words exchanged among the elders, they had already begun choosing a wedding date for Adrian Wang and me. And not only ours, even my cousin Victor Zhou's marriage was settled at the same time. His bride would be Grace Liu, the daughter of a butcher in town. Her name sounded gentle, but her personality was anything but. It was said that once, Victor Zhou had suffered a terrible bout of diarrhea and went alone to the clinic to buy medicine. Halfway there, The pain became so severe that he couldn't even stand. Just then, Grace Liu happened to pass by. After learning what was wrong, she immediately hoisted him onto her shoulder and carried him straight to the clinic. From that moment on, Victor Zhou had never forgotten her. Afterward, he bought meat only from the Liu butcher shop and constantly found excuses to see her. Finally, through his diligence and sincerity, he won her heart. Even Madame Julia Zhou was very satisfied with this future daughter-in-law. "A woman needs to be a bit tough," she said. "Otherwise, how could she support a household?" Meanwhile, I was doing my best to become more gentle, but in the end, I sighed, "Fine. I give up." Beside me, Adrian Wang couldn't help laughing. He leaned close to my ear and whispered, "It doesn't matter whether you're gentle or fierce. I like you all the same." My face instantly turned bright red. I reached out and pinched his waist hard. Just as we were busy teasing each other, the sky over the capital truly changed. The old emperor had contracted the plague. None of the princes or imperial consorts dared approach him. Only Prince Julian, who had once been imprisoned, remained constantly by his bedside, day and night. He attended to him personally. His hair became disheveled from exhaustion. For more than half a month, he never left. He tasted the medicine first before giving it to the emperor. He warmed the bedding and blankets himself. When the emperor's fever refused to break, he even knelt before the Buddha and prayed, offering to shorten his own life in exchange for his father's recovery. When the old emperor finally regained consciousness, Prince Julian's eyes were red from crying. Deeply moved, the emperor, now nearly 60 years old, having just survived a brush with death, suddenly came to understand many things in life. Once again, the old emperor took control of the court. Immediately, he issued an imperial decree. Prince Julian, the third prince, already famous throughout the realm for his virtue, was officially appointed crown prince. At the same time, the other princes were granted princely titles and sent to their own fiefdoms. They were strictly ordered that, without imperial permission, they were not allowed to leave their territories, nor were they permitted to enter the capital on their own. The court trembled with shifting winds and rising storms, but the old emperor acted with swift decisiveness. Only 3 days after establishing the crown prince, he issued another proclamation to the entire realm. "When I first ascended the throne, I once burned incense and prayed to heaven. If heaven granted me its blessing, I would pass the throne to my descendants after 20 years of rule, so that I would not surpass the reign of the founding ancestors. Today, I fulfill that vow. I will withdraw to a private palace and pass the throne to the crown prince." And so, the old emperor became the retired emperor. From that moment on, he devoted himself entirely to spiritual pursuits, seeking immortals, consulting Taoist masters, wandering among mountains and rivers. No one in the world lived more freely than he did. Meanwhile, the third prince ascended the throne and became the new emperor, and the woman who had shared his hardships during the years of confinement, his wife, the third prince's consort, was now crowned empress. She became Empress Helena. Just as the new emperor was settling into power, Peachwater Village was entering the busiest time of the spring farming season. There were not enough hands to do the work. Naturally, Adrian Wang had to help. No matter how fine his brocade robes once were, no matter how precious his jade boots had been, when visiting his future father-in-law's house, a son-in-law still had to go into the fields and plow the land. The more mud on him, the more sincerity he showed. But how exactly does this iron plow work? Since becoming engaged, Adrian Wang had insisted on helping with every task. Unfortunately, he had grown up in the strict education of an aristocratic family. He had never learned anything about farm work. When he said during the proposal that he couldn't even distinguish the 5 grains, it truly wasn't an exaggeration. watching him frown as he held the iron plow, unable to walk forward or stand properly. I waved my hand impatiently. "Oh, honestly, you're hopeless. Even children of 7 or 8 know how to use a plow. And you don't?" Adrian Wong grew so embarrassed that sweat poured down his face, yet he still pulled out a handkerchief from his sleeve and carefully wiped my face. "Don't be angry. I'll learn soon enough." Looking at the dark red scars on his body, I sighed softly. "Forget it. Go rest on the bank. The doctor said you need a few more months of rest to recover properly." Those injuries. They really were from? Adrian Wong nodded calmly. "The family discipline of the Wong clan in Qingzhou." I burst out angrily. What a group of cold-hearted, cruel people. If you ask me, you should cut ties with them completely as soon as possible. Adrian Wong was the nephew of the current empress. Now that the new emperor had ascended the throne, the Wong family in Qingzhou, who had always followed whichever way the wind blew, had begun stirring again. They wanted to take advantage of Adrian Wong's connection to the imperial family through the empress. Their goal was to place several young members of their clan into government positions, but Adrian Wong was far too proud to submit to them. I had heard that he had torn apart several letters sent from Qingzhou. "Don't worry," he said gently. "I'm no longer part of the Wong family. From now on, my family is only the Qin family, the Du family, and my maternal grandfather." In my heart, I sighed. Don't worry, how could I possibly not worry? At first, I had thought Adrian Wong and I were a perfect match. After all, one person who couldn't read matched with one person who couldn't farm, a village girl paired with a young master who had nowhere to rely on, a family without power matched with a man without parents. But now, could this marriage truly still be considered secure? Just thinking about it made my heart twist with anxiety. By May, the locust blossoms filled the air with fragrance, and Madame Margaret Du's heart was just as fragrant with joy, because the new emperor had issued another decree. The title of Duke Harrison Du was restored, his residence, lands, and household servants were all returned. At the same time, the descendants of the Du family were once again given important positions in the court. Even Lady Sophia Du received the noble title of first-rank Zhongshuan lady. At last, the entire household of the Duke returned from Taishan, for the past 2 years in Peachwater Village. Madame Margaret had worried day and night about her family. Now, at last, she could reunite with them and enjoy the happiness of family together. Still, she held tightly onto my grandmother's hand, reluctant to let go. "Lydia Lee, I can't bear to part with you. This time, you must all come with me to the Duke's residence." Madame Margaret was so happy that tears streamed down her face. She gripped Grandma Lee's hand as if afraid that the moment she released it, Grandma Lee would run away. And in truth, Grandma Lee did want to run away. "No, no, we won't go. We're just mud-footed peasants who've never seen the world. If people found out, we'd only bring shame to the Duke's household." Madame Margaret rarely showed anger, but this time, she spoke firmly. "Anyone who dares say a word against it will be opposing the Duke's household. This isn't your decision. And it's not the busy season anymore. You must listen to me." Grandma Lee trembled nervously. Her heart pounded. We really have to go?" "Yes. Then we'll go." So under Madame Margaret's determined insistence, our entire family prepared to visit the Duke's residence for several days. Only Liu Chen could not come. He was preparing for the elementary scholar examination. So he stayed behind at the shop with Victor Zhou. Before leaving, Grandma Lee carefully packed the memorial tablet of Madame Julia Zhou to take with her. I knew why. All these years, Grandma Lee had never forgotten the kindness Madame Julia had once shown. The Duke's residence was enormous and magnificent, even more dazzling than I remembered. Looking around made my head spin, and walking through it made my legs ache. The household of Duke Harrison Dew welcomed us warmly when the subject of my marriage with Adrian Wong came up. The Duke stroked his beard and burst into hearty laughter. It turned out to be just as we thought. Ha! 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 Good! 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 The marriage of Han Kar and the restoration of the Duke's residence. This is truly double happiness arriving at the door. After the banquet ended, Lady Sophia Dew pulled me gently to a quiet corner. She took out a piece of pure white jade and placed it into my hands. This jade pendant belonged to my mother, she said softly. She once said she would leave it to her daughter-in-law. Now it belongs to you. I was just about to refuse when she hurriedly continued. Han Kar has suffered a hard life. Only because of you did he finally taste a little sweetness. In the future, the two of you must live well together. I know what you're worried about. But you can rest assured. This marriage, even the Jade Emperor himself would not be able to separate it. I laughed and said, the Jade Emperor doesn't manage marriages. That's the job of Yu Lao, the old man under the moon. After arriving in the capital, I finally learned something I had never known before. All these years, Adrian Wong had secretly been working for Prince Julian. He was, in fact, the money pouch of the new emperor. Because of that, the new emperor granted him an honorary post in the Ministry of Revenue, ranked at the 4th official grade. The position did not restrict his freedom. Yet the salary was extremely generous. At the same time, he was instructed to continue working for the emperor just as he had done for the prince. After all, the national treasury was never enough to spend, and even the emperor's private treasury was crying out for money. Everyone was poor, poorer even than farmers plowing their fields. Once the residence of Duke Harrison Dew was restored, visitors arrived endlessly to offer congratulations. The Duke himself was already exhausted by the trouble, and Madame Margaret Dew was even more annoyed. It's easy to embroider flowers onto brocade, she grumbled, but giving charcoal to warm someone in the snow, that's difficult. When the Duke's residence was confiscated, these people ran faster than rabbits. And now they come here pretending nothing ever happened. The shamelessness is truly beyond belief. My grandmother, Grandma Lee, was equally furious. That's right. Even ignorant farmers like us wouldn't behave like that. I even heard some people found excuses to stay here and refuse to leave. It was the first time Daniel Chen and Mei Lin Chen had ever visited such a grand residence. They didn't even know which foot to step forward with first. They walked stiffly, like people learning how to walk all over again. She ran wild with excitement, dragging Annie Dew everywhere with her. One moment they were climbing trees to catch birds. The next moment they were swinging on the garden swings. All the rare and precious flowers in the garden were nearly destroyed by her hands. Yet Lily proudly declared, back then, Shenong tasted 100 herbs. Today, Lily Chen will destroy 100 flowers. Dr. Tian said that if you want to become a doctor, you must dare to touch plants and experiment with them. I grabbed a stick and chased after her. I think you've gone completely insane. Lily lifted her legs and ran while shouting back stubbornly. Dr. Tian also said, if you're not a little crazy, you can't become a great person. Meanwhile, Annie Dew had been abandoned behind by Lily. Seeing the fury blazing on my face, she hurried over to coax me. Big sister, don't be angry. I'll tell you a secret. It's about my uncle. I froze and lowered the stick. Your uncle? What about him? Annie leaned close to my ear and whispered, "The other day, I heard a big sister in the garden say she wants to marry my uncle. She even said, at worst, she'd be willing to become his concubine." I stood there in shock. Who said that? That sister from the Chui family. My mother's friend brought her here to visit. I secretly overheard them talking about her marriage with my uncle. Hearing that made my anger rise even higher. Annie saw my face turn green with rage and thought she had said something wrong. She immediately turned to run away. But after a few steps, she stopped and ran back again. "Sister. The one who said those things. Is the lady wearing the yellow dress over there?" She pointed toward a figure standing among the flowers not far away. The girl smiled sweetly in my direction. Following Annie's finger, I looked over. The woman in the yellow dress had also noticed me. She paused for a moment. Then she smiled with unmistakable smugness. Her body was covered in tinkling jewelry as she walked over with two maidservants behind her. "You are Chloe Chen, aren't you?" she said. She lifted her chin and looked me up and down. 3 parts arrogance, 7 parts contempt. I raised an eyebrow and smiled calmly. "Yes. I am Chloe Chen, the fiancée of Adrian Wang." She immediately snapped angrily, "Fiancée, not wife." I smiled even wider. "Well then. A fiancée whose engagement was broken is even less of a wife." So it was the Chui family of Qizhou, that notoriously opportunistic household. Back when Adrian Wang had been expelled from the Wang family, they had immediately broken the engagement. Now that Adrian had become connected to the imperial family through Empress Helena, they suddenly came crawling back, hoping to renew the marriage. Their behavior was worse than a dog licking someone's face. Yet this Olivia Chui had been pampered since childhood. She didn't take me seriously at all. Deliberately covering her nose with a handkerchief, she sneered, "You should know your place. You're nothing more than a country girl. How could you possibly be worthy of him? If you behave yourself, I may tolerate you in the future. Otherwise what?" I deliberately provoked her. "You're not even married yet. How do you know I'm not worthy of him? You." Clearly she had never heard such crude words before. Her face instantly flushed red with both anger and embarrassment. "You're only obsessed with him now because he's rich and powerful. A wild chicken dreaming of becoming a phoenix. What ridiculous fantasy." I couldn't help laughing. My husband is someone I choose. If he has nothing, then I'll eat coarse porridge with him. If he is wealthy, then I'll help him guard his fortune. But girls like you. You talk about wealth and power in every sentence. Do you choose husbands not for character, but only for money and status? Isn't that the same as selling yourselves? How laughable. And besides, whether I'm a wild chicken or whether I want to become a phoenix, what does that have to do with you? You even say you'll tolerate me? Oh my heavens, what enormous arrogance. It's practically suffocating." After saying that, I deliberately covered my nose as well and turned to leave. Behind me, little Annie Du burst into uncontrollable laughter. I winked at her. She immediately understood and grabbed my hand. "Let's go. It smells terrible here. Take Annie away quickly." That clever little girl from the Du family made me like her even more. Soon afterward, the matter reached the ears of Grandma Li and Madame Margaret Du. Both of them were so angry that their teeth nearly shattered. "Drive them out. Drive them all out. From today onward, the Chui family is forbidden from setting foot here again." Lady Sophia Du nearly burst into tears on the spot. These shameless mother and daughter. I already rejected them clearly. yet they still refuse to give up. It truly brings shame upon such a great clan. My grandmother, Grandmolly, snorted coldly. The emperor's brother-in-law really does have tremendous appeal. They placed the wrong bet before, and now their regret has turned their insides green. Beside her, Madame Margaret Douce slapped her thigh loudly. Then let's hurry and arrange the wedding. We must prepare the marriage ceremony for the children immediately. As their matchmaker, even I can hardly wait any longer. I've already checked the almanac. The 28th day of the 6th month is the best possible date. Not too hot, not too cold. Let's set it for that day. And the wedding of Victor Jo and Grace Lu can be held together as well. The more lively the celebration, the better. My grandmother was so happy that tears streamed down her face. Then we'll trouble you with everything. Madame Margaret also couldn't hold back her tears. Why are two old women like us crying? This is a great joyful occasion, isn't it, Chloe? I stood to the side with my face completely flushed. The 28th day of the 6th month. Wasn't that only next month? Isn't that a little too rushed? But to Madame Margaret, who had been staying at the residence of Duke Harrison Dew for half a month, it didn't feel rushed at all. She had already grown restless. My back aches, my body feels stiff, and nothing feels comfortable here. No. I must return to Peachwater Village. The Duke looked both amused and helpless. You truly treat that place as your own home now, don't you? Madame Margaret glared at him. My elder sister lives there. If that's not my home, then what is? Why be so polite about it? The next day, she climbed into a carriage and returned to Peachwater Village, and she even dragged Duke Harrison Dew along with her. Now the Duke followed Madame Margaret everywhere she went, like a shadow that never left her side. Their affection resembled that of an elderly couple whose bond had only grown deeper with time. He said quietly, 2 years ago, I thought our parting in life would become a separation in death. I never expected heaven to show mercy and allow husband and wife to reunite again. Since heaven has granted us this grace, we cannot waste it. From now on, wherever you go, I will go as well. Hearing those words, my whole family was naturally overjoyed, especially Daniel Chen. Although he wasn't good with polite speech, he had already begun planning to build new houses. A bride will soon enter the family, he said, and a daughter-in-law will soon come home. Guests will surely visit more and more often. If we don't build more houses, it won't be enough. When the villagers heard that our family was preparing to build new houses again, the young men of Peachwater Village all came to help. Second brother Chen, why be so polite? Someone said. In this village, whose family hasn't taken medicine from your household before? That's right. Didn't Lily Chen even save my second son's life once? Enough talking, everyone, get to work. We must finish building quickly so Chloe Chen can get married. But remember, when the wedding comes, you must let us drink as much celebratory wine as we want. My father's face turned red with excitement. Drink. Drink. Everyone drink as much as you like. If there's enough wine, then there's enough. No one will go without. Even Duke Harrison Dew rolled up his sleeves and joined the commotion. This old man can help too. After all, during the past 2 years in Tasshan, I chopped trees every day. But Madame Margaret Dew quickly pulled him back. At your age, stop fooling around. You only need to provide the money. The Duke burst into laughter. Money is not a problem. Not a problem at all. With both money and manpower, The new houses were built very quickly. On one side, people were busy building the houses. On the other side, preparations were underway for the weddings, mine with Adrian Wang, and my cousin Victor Zhou with Grace Liu. Everything was nearly ready. All that remained was to wait for the auspicious day. But on the eve of the wedding, my heart suddenly became uneasy. I sat on the edge of the rice field, letting the wind blow through my loose hair. My expression was distant and distracted. "What exactly do you like about me?" I asked quietly. Adrian Wang gently brushed the strands of hair behind my ear. "When I see you, I feel at peace. Because I know that when I was in hardship, you did not abandon me. And when I gained wealth, you were still by my side. I've already thought it through. After we marry, we'll live together in Peachwater Village. We'll work in the morning and rest in the evening. We'll farm the land, sell wontons, and live side by side until our hair turns white. That would already be a perfect life." I froze in surprise. "What about your brilliant future?" He pinched my nose lightly, his eyes full of tenderness. "Silly girl. Being close to the emperor is like living beside a tiger. Confiscation of property, exile, earthquakes, epidemics. I've already gone through life and death so many times. After all those experiences, glory and wealth have become nothing more than dust in my eyes. How could those worldly things compare to even a little tenderness from the person beside my pillow?" He spoke with deep emotion. Without realizing it, I became completely captivated by his gaze. In that moment, I wished I could remain in that feeling forever and never wake up. At last, the 28th day of the 6th month arrived. That day, guests gathered from everywhere. The relatives of Adrian Wang, officials who once worked with him in court, villagers from Peachwater Village, people from the academy, old Master Lang, brother Liu Lu, and many others. All of them came. Under the great locust tree, more than 60 banquet tables were arranged. Wine and meat flowed endlessly like a running river. The celebration was so lively that the noise echoed far and wide. The Prince Julian, now the Emperor, and Empress Helena had originally wanted to attend as well, but the palace had too many rules. In the end, they were unable to come. Still, I secretly thought to myself, "I'm just a small village girl who has traveled such a long road to attend this feast. Surely they wouldn't let me leave empty-handed. How wonderful!" Our entire family became curious. What kind of surprise would it be? Among the guests seated at the banquet tables, there was one elderly man. He was short, dark-skinned, and round like a ball. He ate and drank heartily. At one moment he even threw an arm around the shoulders of village chiefly, chatting with him as if they were old friends. "Old friend," the man said cheerfully, "how many years have you been serving as the village chief?" Village chiefly lifted his hand and counted on his fingers for a moment. Then he said proudly, "Exactly 20 years now." "Oh." The short, round old man replied with interest. "Then tell me, how have these 20 years been?" Village chiefly straightened his back proudly. "The seas have been calm and the rivers peaceful. The realm has enjoyed stability and prosperity. The world has been at peace." "Good. Excellent." The plump old man beamed with delight and drained the wine cup in his hand in a single gulp. "In that case," he said with a grin, "the rule of the retired emperor must have been fairly decent, wouldn't you say?" Village chiefly had already drunk several cups, and the wine had flushed his face red. "Fairly decent?" He scoffed. "It was very decent. The only strange thing was that he kept changing the era names. Always trying to make things look fancy." The old man burst out laughing. "Ah, Exactly. I've always wondered why he kept changing them. Not far away, Duke Harrison Dew, who was seated nearby, heard this conversation. His expression gradually stiffened, even the chopsticks in his hand trembled slightly. He glanced at the other court officials present at the banquet. Every single one of them had lowered their heads and were stuffing food into their mouths, pretending not to hear a thing, yet the tension on their faces was obvious. In Peachwater Village, there was no custom forbidding the bride from attending the wedding feast. After I lifted my bridal veil and drank the ceremonial wine with Adrian Wong, I leaned closer and asked curiously, "Is that old gentleman one of your relatives?" Adrian looked surprised and shook his head. "I thought he might be from your side of the family. Earlier I heard him say that Peachwater Village has beautiful mountains and rivers. He suddenly decided he wants to stay here permanently and never leave." I laughed. "Well, Peachwater Village really is a wonderful place to retire. After all, we've never stolen or cheated anyone. We've lived our lives honestly. What do we have to fear?" I nodded solemnly. "My husband speaks wisely. From now on, this wife will listen to you in everything." Among all the wedding guests, the students from Bamboo Valley Academy were the most lively and noisy group. After all, they were young men full of energy. Once they had drunk a few cups of strong wine, their excitement became impossible to contain. Among them was a young scholar known as the #1 talent of the academy. Someone teased him loudly. "Didn't you once write a poem specially for the wonton shop? And didn't you give the bride the nickname Little Wonton Shisher? Why are you only drinking wine today? Where's the poetry?" The young scholar was already slightly drunk. He glanced lazily at the crowd and replied, "Then shall I recite a poem to celebrate the occasion?" "Recite it. Recite it." Everyone immediately began shouting encouragement. The young man grabbed a wine jug and staggered to his feet. With a dramatic sweep of his sleeve, he walked 7 steps and then declared his poem, "Compassion for the hungry, kindness toward the poor, a Buddha's heart revealed. Good deeds weave good destinies. Blessings are not gifts from heaven. Raise the cup and celebrate, a marriage blessed by bamboo and fate." The moment Adrian Wong and I heard the poem, we both sprayed the wine from our mouths, yet the crowd burst into thunderous applause. "Wonderful! Wonderful! What a clear and easy poem! It advises the world and awakens the heart. Truly worthy of praise." And just like that, the story came to its end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to Love Stories with Lisa for more stories. Thank you so much.